tell me the story about the first guitar that he said, okay, you're gonna build this one.
Okay, so the first one, I still have it actually. I should have brought them in. The first one, he didn't just like throw me on these tools or anything because they're very dangerous. But the first one that we built was kind of like mostly him working on it, but I'd be doing the sanding. I could do the same, he always talks about, in Spain when the generations, the kids growing up in the luthier shops, or they're making violins or guitars, the first thing you start doing is the kids start sweeping the floor. Okay, yeah, all you're gonna do is sweep, then you can, okay, maybe you could touch this vice or help me with this on the bench or something. And there's this thing that you gotta like take your time and earn your you gotta watch a lot, and learn by watching too, not just doing. I'm a very on hands person with everything, but the first one was something that he kind of did most of, but was kind of like, okay, the next one's going to be mostly you. So it was a mini telly style Chelsea Hotel neck.
Okay.
And what we did was we did the top half of the body gun stock quilted maple, so it was the flamey maple.
Okay.
And the back was half swamp ash, old growth swamp ash that he had from back in the 70s when he was working on the farms in Maryland and building up his little thing. Yeah. So that was the first one, and at that point I was really into my tarot of the cat people tarot cards.
Okay.
So I had done some of the illustrations on the back of that, just trying to figure out how pen works on stuff, how markers work on things, how colored pencil works on things, because I'm kind of mixed media too. So that was kind of an experiment on that one. I still have it. It sounds great. And it was an experiment with airbrush too at that point, because I kind of wanted, this flame that was more of like a dark black to gray burst, but with the flame in the middle. So I did that. And that was the original look of it. But then years later, I became obsessed with blackguard blondes at one point. And I came in and I sanded the whole front off blonde and just refinished it and put a blackguard on it. And it's still like that, and it's beautiful. But the back and the sides have the original finish. And so does
Is that guitar on your Instagram? That picture?
I could post it soon. I'll send it to you. I can send you whatever photos you want, so that you can see the visuals. Yeah.
My nugget out of this part of your sharing with us is that you basically, again, in whatever you do, get involved, get there. Like you said, if you want to build guitars, you got to be at this store. Even sweeping the floor, getting your feet wet, because I think that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Right?
You're watching Guitar State with Alex Lopez.
Hey everybody, this is Alex once again. Welcome to Guitar State, and today I have the great pleasure to chat with Rick Kelly, the founder of Carmine Street Guitars here in New York City. We're on our last run of our New York City trip, and Rick had the great gesture and kindness of talking to us today. So Rick, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story with my channel, Guitar State. And as we were chatting yesterday, when was the first time that you got this, desire or feeling of building an instrument?
Oh, I was in 1968 in high school. I was just leaving high school, heading to college in Baltimore. I went to an art school in Baltimore. But I had a project and I built a cigar box ukulele.
That was your first instrument,
That was the first
right?
thing I made, in 1968. And I think it was May. I put the dates on it and everything. I still have it, yes.
I was about to ask, so you still have that?
Yeah.
And
then that same year, I started on 3 guitars, which I also still have. And those were the first 3 solid bodies, but I didn't have any money. But I've had a big board, and the board was big enough to make 3 guitars from. So how I started making those first three guitars.
I always ask this question to guitar builders. You have obviously there's a skill of building something. Why wood?
Why wood?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question nowadays because wood's getting scarce. I mean, guitars have traditionally been made of wood for over 200 years. So there's a lot to say about wood, and how most of all the music you've ever heard has been recorded on wooden instruments, either whether the harpsichords, pianos, cellos, violins, they're all made from trees, and most of them were made from ancient trees if they're old enough. And that's what musical instrument makers are always looking for, is the type of tree that's suitable for the type of instruments that they want to make. So, in my case, this wood that we use comes from these old buildings, and it's old growth. So these trees were here when nobody else was here, and they had never been cut down because nobody was here.
And I'm glad you mentioned one of the characteristics of your instruments, of your shop, is that are made from old wood from the New York City buildings. When was the first time that idea came into fruition, that let's do this, let's use this wood?
Well, I actually did it by accident a few times in the early days, not thinking that it was a great source of using it, but I actually started that also, scavenging wood in the 1970s. I couldn't afford to go to a high-end wood shop and buy high-end lumber. We just didn't have any dough. So what you look for is old stuff, because it was always a knowledge that old instruments get better with age. Old guitars cost a lot more because they're better sounding, because the wood seasons, and there's molecular things that happen in the wood that makes them sound better as they age. So you're always looking for older wood to begin with, whether it be from furniture that's been around 100 years or even wallboards. Or
so that's kind of like a rule of thumb, like.
Well, for me it was, because not only out of desperation of not having money, but also knowing that old instruments sound better. Why? Well, the wood is really seasoned, so you look for old wood. And at that time I was in farm country, so I'm looking at the barns and I'm finding beautiful timber in old abandoned farm houses. And farms were going out of business down in Maryland, where I went to college, and every weekend the newspaper was full of farm auctions, and you could go to these auctions and buy everything from farm equipment to household stuff to great granddaddy's wood that's still in that outbuilding over there, and nobody bid on it except me. So
you,
I
were you getting like good prices?
It was almost free.
Almost free. I was about to say
it was more me getting the flatbed there. My truck, I had an old '53 flatbed Chevy that I would chug along and get there and fill it up with wood. Yeah, I'm still using the wood I got from those days.
So you got a lot of wood then?
Got a lot of wood in the '70s because of the farm auctions. Yeah.
Okay.
And there was all kinds of wood. The farmers would use black walnut for beams. Sometimes you'd see, even here in the city, I see mahogany beams. The fire department,
really?
Ladder 5 has brought me mahogany that were used in some of the fancy brownstones on Fifth Avenue behind a plaster wall. You don't know what's there,
Isn't it? Look, like I said, this is like a unique characteristic of your instruments, but also in the times that we live, with climate changing and the whole thing, that there are certain areas that there are certain woods that you don't touch anymore. What you guys are doing basically is recycling wood and reusing it.
Yeah. There's restrictions, rightly so, from a lot of countries. In Brazil, you can't have their wood anymore because Martin and Gibson used it all up and killed a lot of their cash crop, which is a Brazil nut tree. And if you disturb the soil in rainforest areas, that's it. So they've learned a lot too, since the 1940s and 50s, when imports were bringing in all this exotic lumber from, mahogany has been around for a long time. We've been importing that, since the 1800s. But you see it in a lot of old buildings, but mostly what you see is these beautiful giant white pine forests that was here, that went from like Maryland up into Canada and all the way west to the prairie states. It was nothing but gigantic white pine.
You mentioned Brazil. the restrictions, and we all kind of have an idea. Every time everybody that's passionate about guitars, building this, they're kind of aware of this. Is that one of the reasons that the Brazilian rosewood is so expensive? It's so kind of like,
Well,
even
we're
you're
not
not
allowed
supposed
to
to
have
take
it.
exactly.
Yeah, no, they put an embargo on the Brazilian rosewood because of the guitar companies. I guarantee. I mean, there was furniture makers using it
That's
since the
more
1800s
guitars.
too, but it was the big guitar companies that were gobbling it up. When you're making 150 instruments a day, and you're using Indian rosewood or Brazilian before that, Brazil said, hey, my cash crop is the nut trees. And you guys are just putting roads in and taking out this wood. There's still plenty of Brazilian rosewood in Brazil, I guarantee you, out there in the rainforest.
Right.
But they just don't let anybody in there anymore, which is good.
And there's still custom shop guitars. I'm not gonna mention the brands. Actually,
Yeah.
I own one of them that has Brazilian rosewood. But later, I learned that this restriction is you cannot even take the instrument out of the United States.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, the feds will confiscate. They've already confiscated pianos with ivory and ebony over the years. Now ebony's getting like the Brazilian rosewood. It's not enough of it. I remember Selmer, the horn company that made all their instruments out of ebony, complaining in the 1980s and 90s that the ebony trees were exploding on the lathes when they're trying to turn a clarinet because the wood had so many fires that it created pockets of burned wood inside it, and you can't find quality wood. They used it all. There's only so many trees on the planet, and
Look, and I appreciate you giving us these details about what's actually happening with wood in the world. Now, going back, where this shop that seen it all? I know that this shop you shared with us yesterday that it was a Walt Disney employee
oh yeah,
working here, right?
yeah.
Had a studio here,
Uh-huh.
and this was like in a speakeasy before that, or
Yeah.
something like that. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit?
Yeah, well, the house was, that you can chronicle and you find out every single thing about every house on this block. And number 42 was built in 1827 for a guy named Bennett. I think his name was, an English guy. And he flipped it. And then several families lived here for a long time. But my landlady, who still lives upstairs and raises her daughter here, is her great-grandfather bought the house in 1906. So they've been here for generations,
Right, decades.
That's the way it was, back in the day. But it had a lot of owners, this house, but it's still standing, and it's a beautiful little house. And I don't remember what your question was, but
Well, the question was that it was a Walt Disney guy.
oh yeah, in this
employee
place,
studio,
yeah, it's
and it
in
was
the
a speakeasy.
yeah. The Walt Disney guy, I met him. He came in several times over the years, and there wasn't a doorway or an entrance into the room in the back. There was just like a hole, but you used to have to go through the hallway of the house. Just like all the houses right here, if you go through the hallway of the house, there's always a door in the very back that goes into a little backyard.
Right.
And that's what that was. That was a backyard, walled up in 1900, according to all the books, the stuff you can find out about the buildings. The documentation shows that it was walled up in 1906, so it's all grandfathered in. And it was a dance hall. They know that for many years. And then during Prohibition, everything down here turned into a speakeasy. There were like 15,000 speakeasies in the Greenwich Village.
Wow.
And during Prohibition, and this was definitely one of them because it had the little peek through on the door. Joe sent me, it had the little
Right,
grate.
like we see in the movies.
Yeah, it's just like that. It
So-
went through the hallway of the house
You lived
into
that.
that back room.
You saw
Yeah,
that. You
yeah,
experienced that.
yeah.
Were you a client on speakeasies? Of course.
Was that?
Were you going to speakeasies?
Oh no, I wasn't alive then.
Oh, okay.
That's the 1930s and 40s. But
Okay.
my dad and my mom went through that. I guess they were around during the Prohibition days.
Okay. Now, talking about the shop, when I was looking for the shop, I found the shop obviously on Instagram, on your page, on Cindy's page. And when we got to the area, we were like, I don't think it's here because there's all this area that's been, touched by developers and this and that. And this store remains here and has the character of New York City back in the day.
Oh yeah.
This is another thing coming to this store, guys. Is like you're in a different era. The minute you walked in, it's like
It's like walking back in time in
Exactly.
here, and that's what I kind of always wanted. I mean, it's an 1827 building, And I don't change. We have a natural brick wall there that goes back to where they would never allow you to have wood inside the brick wall like that. That's all grandfathered in because the building's so old. But the pine floors that we're standing on, those came from those ancient trees. And under these floors is a rafter every 16 inches. Above us, same thing. Every floor, every building, every borough. There's just so much of this old growth in these old buildings. But yeah, we keep it looking like it did, when it was a cabinet shop in 1929, and they were making furniture for John's Pizza, which opened in 1929. So the neighborhood is still an old Italian neighborhood. That's why the streets are the way they are. Carmine Street, and the Irish were here a little earlier, and they Sullivan Street and Thompson Street. There's a lot of Dutch were here first, so there's a lot of Dutch names too. This whole area is a lot of Dutch down on Wall Street, all that area. That was the beginnings of it.
How did you build your clientele back in the day? I know you have artists that have worked with you. One of them was famous Lou Reed.
Yeah.
How did they get to know your instruments? Was word of mouth? Was because
you guys live here, they all live here, and I lived here.
They
and
just showed up.
I was living in my shop, so
Right.
you get a bang on the window in the morning, anybody in there, all of a sudden you turn around and it's John Belushi standing in your shop.
Right.
Those were just, these guys, they're not afraid to live their life,
Right.
Most of them. I mean, some guys are all paranoid.
I like what you just said.
Yeah.
They are not afraid to
live their life.
life.
They walk the streets.
Take
Lou always walked around, and Patti walks around all the time now. Most people are respectful, and they'll just say, "Hey, Patti," or whatever. But they show up here because I'm here, and the store's been here for so long, and nobody's intimidated when they come in here. They feel welcome, and it's like you say, it's going back in time. You feel like you're going to an old cabinet shop from 1906 or something.
Right. And I tell you this, yesterday, thank you very much for your hospitality. You're right. We came here, it's exactly how you describe it, but also you were such a nice guy. We started talking about the guitars, talking about the store, and basically you started sharing all, this decades of moments here at your shop. Now, going back to the beginning, you built those 3 guitars. You mentioned that it took you like a year to build the first guitar.
It's 2 years. Yeah, it was 1968 when I started. I was in school though too, so I didn't have as much time to work on them all the time. But 1970 is before I finished them. But that was also starting on a first acoustic. I was really wanted to, this neighborhood here is all classical guitar builders. There's been some famous ones on this block. You had Jose Rubio was probably here first in the early 60s. Lucian Barnes through the 1960s. Tom Humphreys, both on this block. Michael Gorian had number 50. Gorian Guitars went right up there. Michael's still around. He's out west somewhere. But this is just happened to be the block where a lot of instrument makers were. But the whole neighborhood too, Greenwich Village, has had, Epiphone was here. Martin was 4 blocks over that way. Martin Guitars, and they're up in Nazareth, but they were first here. You see Martin's, say Martin, New York. Yeah, New York. They were right here. A lot of guitar.
So they were your neighbors. They were in the area. They were like.
There was a violin maker not far from here back in the 60s, I remember. I don't even remember his name, but yeah, D'Angelico, come on, he's right here on Kenmare Street. John D'Angelico. I remember going in his shop when I was like 7, 8 years old with my grandpa. He wanted to just show me a really neat looking old instrument maker shop. That's just like what you would see in Europe, because a lot of these guys were descendants of Europeans that came here and brought their trades here into the city. So there were a lot of Germans that settled here and started Martin Guitars, and a lot of them started, other companies, Epiphone, Stephanopoulos, I don't know what, he was Greek, I think. But, this is an immigrant haven. New York City is a melting pot.
Now, let's talk about a little bit of, the changes in the guitar industry over the decades, not the years, over the decades. In your shop is still around? Because there's so many great guitar builders
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
have closed doors.
Uh-huh.
Pandemic happened years ago, but
Yeah.
even before that, the industry had some changes.
Right.
What would you tell to a young builder that's doing what you're doing, starting doing this? What was your what do you think
I don't
still
know.
open?
I would say just stick with it, blah, 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 all that stuff, that I always felt. But nowadays, I'm not so sure anymore, if it's even a good industry to get involved in, because I think there's going to be some major changes because of computers and technology. Instruments are going to not be made of wood anymore. They're going to wind up being made of carbon fibers and other exotic materials, probably. Who knows? I don't really know if it's a viable thing to
For a living?
but yeah, you can always restore old instruments. They're going to become more and more valuable if there's a switch to metal or some other kind of material to make it. They've been trying stuff like that forever, but guitars have been around since 1950. They're only as old as me, and I'm not an old guy at all.
Right. But you know what? I agree with your statement, but at the same time, it's like, everybody that loves guitars, plays an instrument. These are unique instruments, and it's for certain clientele.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody
Right.
that wants like $100 guitar.
Right.
And same as amps, right? Right now, the technology, you have the computers, and
Yeah.
you're no longer using amps, but amps became a luxury now.
Yeah. Huh?
People that use it.
Yeah.
So your instruments are up there. It's like a unique custom shop instrument.
Well, we're living through a time, I think, that's, we're watching the change happen in our own lives. People still love music, and all the music that was made in the 60s is still as popular today as it ever was. And, guys like Bill Kirchen, he's playing songs that he played with Commander Cody in the 1960s. And he fills the house just like he did then.
Right.
There's no less interest in the music, and as long as that holds, these guitars will still be as viable, because you can't get the sound without the guitar. You can't get the sound without the old piano. That's why old pedals, old amps, they'll always hold their value, because they make a sound that it's going to be hard to reproduce, or maybe not. Maybe they'll have that figured out, and it'll be a totally different thing. But for now, and I think at least another 10 to 20 years, until something really radically different happens, possibly. I mean, you had something already radically different happen when hip-hop turned into rap, and they started using less and less musical instruments, and that's already still changing. What's dance music? There's no guitars in there,
Right.
But there's still a huge, people love metal, they love Eddie Van Halen.
Right.
They're going to want to learn to play like him, So I don't think it's going anywhere, but it'll find its niche, and it'll always be around.
So, do you think the key is here to? Well, I don't know the word. It's adapt.
Yeah, you
But-
got to adapt. That's true. If you're going to come up into this industry, and you're just going to, restore, refurbish, learn to do really good setups, have a little music store. Still a great life, but there's lots of avenues you could get involved in. The electronic avenue, they're pretty simple. They're just potentiometers and wire and magnets for pickups. That part of it is still pretty primitive, but even that's changing. You got little Thunder pickups, and guys are using sensors and other things to make pickups now, and they're getting some. Fishman has got incredible, these grizzly tone. They just, they're different. They're made different,
I'm glad you mentioned Fishman. Yeah.
Yeah, they pioneered acoustic sound amplification, and now they're working on solid body electric and redesigning the whole concept of what a pickup is and how it works and the sounds it can produce. And I think somebody's going to come up with something that's going to be knock our socks off, probably, and everything will have to change. So be prepared.
Yeah, and I think what you said, adapt.
Yeah.
That's the word,
Yeah.
and it's coming from
Yeah.
an icon
Yeah,
like
you gotta
yourself.
adapt,
I
yeah.
like your sharing
I
that.
mean, New York's a perfect example of adaptation. we've been around a long time in this city. You know, if you look at a map of Manhattan in 1610, it would be nothing but green and campfire smoke. Just think about that. There was nobody here. The Lenapes were here. There were plenty of people here, but they were all American Indians, natives. You know, this was these buildings, the changes that this city goes through is it's phenomenal how fast and quick it just sprouts. And it keeps
happening.
Yeah,
it
the buildings happening up there now in Hudson Yards.
Right. I was
awesome.
there. I was there these days. My last trip in New York was 3-4 years ago. And I wasn't aware of that. I was like, holy moly, this thing is
it's
like...
going to be like Blade Runner here soon.
Yeah, so it's great. Now, talking about a little bit about the specifics of how you build an instrument. Well, let's start with your favorite guitar out of the ones you make. We have here, I asked you that question yesterday. Look at this wall. We have a wall of Telecasters. So.
Yeah, Leo Fender's very first, you know, probably outlined by, you know, George Fullerton in 19, what would have been in like 47, 48. They were working on, they had that Paul Bigsby and they're checking it down. It had sort of a Les Paul looking vibe and a Strat headstock. So I think a lot of influence came from Paul, his guitars at the time. You know, he was a motorcycle guy and he just wanted to make an electric guitar, you know, and they were making lap steels and nothing else before that. You know, so these guys are real pioneers to think, well, you know, there's a guitar. Why don't we just make it out of something solid so it doesn't feed back like they did? They already had, in the late 30s, they had pickups in arch stops, but they were just feedback machines. And so, you know, this was a way to change the whole sound, invented electric guitar. So yeah, I think that that was a big influence, big change.
What was the first Telecaster you owned? Or was made by you, or you purchased it?
Yeah, no, I had to make my first 3 guitars, and one of them was, I wanted like a Strat, a Tele, and a Les Paul.
Yeah.
And, you want the 3, the triumphant, but it's hard to get that when you got no money and you have to make your own. You got one big board, but I managed to make all 3 out of one board, although my Les Paul looks hardly like a Les Paul at all.
Right, and not only that, you managed to keep them over the years.
Yeah, that was really just luck and having a mom that doesn't throw anything away.
Have you ever, over the years, been approached by someone that wants a unique instrument or trying to buy those things from you?
No, I haven't had. I've only taken them out of the bags and put them in the showcase probably 10 years ago. So yeah, I had them just in bags and thinking that, you know, why am I just holding these in bags and hiding them? Why don't we put them on display? I go way back.
It's a great display. Yeah. You guys are watching it. It got some type of takes. Now, for the people that are guitar collectors or people that want like a unique instrument, how long it will take? Oh well, there's plenty. All these guitars are for sale, correct?
Yes.
So there's plenty of inventory here for unique guitars. You can come here and buy. But if they want like a unique instrument, put in their own, you know, character and personality, how long it will take? What's the process?
Well, I don't do that. That's why we have Cindy here.
Okay, Cindy does the orders. Okay.
Yeah, so Cindy takes the custom orders. I just keep the store supplied, you know, and keep it with inventory full, so we always have available guitars. And some of those could be modified to personalize them a little bit. We've done that a lot too. But we both do the same thing basically. You know, we're making the same guitars on the same machines. And, you know, the machines are limited. We do mostly handwork.
You mentioned yesterday that you build the guitar per week, right?
Yeah, I do. I make
that's 4 a month, 48 in
about 50 a year I make, and a lot of them, like I have, you know, probably 400 bodies that I made in the 80s. So, I always have something I could grab too and make it 3 in a week.
Oh, okay.
You know,
because
I don't usually, but yeah.
We'll get some takes on that. I didn't see that. It's on the top. So you have pre-made bodies, right? That makes easier to put the guitar together. You have a pre-made.
Pre-made by
bodies.
me. I made. They're all handmade by me.
Yeah, they're not like just bodies.
No, they're not available to purchase. I never bought any of those. They're all made.
Exactly. Okay, now your relationship with Cindy, how did it start?
Well, she just walked in one day and wanted to learn how to make guitars, and I thought, well, we'll start off with, helping me with computers, and I was struggling at that time, figuring all that part of it out. So, we sort of did that, and she's been here ever since, 14 years.
So, and yeah, that is, I was reading, the story about you guys, and I think that is a relationship that nurtured this shop for what it is right now. And now, going back to the luthier question, the guitar builder, what would you tell the younger Rick, knowing what you know now, back in the day when you built those 3 guitars?
Well, you got to really be passionate about the idea. At that time in my life, when I first started, I really wanted to be a sculptor. I didn't want to make instruments or have a small shop or any of that stuff. I just wanted to be a famous sculptor. And I went to Merrill Institute College of Art to become a sculptor. And then when I got there, they brought everybody into the auditorium and told us, if you think you're going to get rich by going to this school, you should go somewhere else. Because an artist has probably the least chance, unless you got a lot of money, and you can build up a body of work. You're not getting any commissions from anybody because you have nothing to show. So you realize early in life that, sculpture is for rich kids. You can't build a body of work if you got no money. You could do what I did and just go to the local places where you can get free stuff and make it out of free stuff, which is a lot of the students where I was going to school were pretty poor too, and they would find ways, paper mache, things like that.
What year was this?
1968.
1968.
Yeah, I went to Woodstock in August, and by September I was in Baltimore going to college. And it was all 1968. Did a lot of things in 1968.
But are you glad that teacher told you that?
Oh yeah, it was a good reality check. Right away. I didn't waste my time. I still made sculpture and learned all the techniques. I love sculpture. I was passionate about it. I wanted to be a sculptor. And to this day, I still make some sculpture all the time. I'm always working on some new project, but I realized it wasn't going to be my occupation. I had to find a way to incorporate it. And I did with the instruments. I did a lot of carvings on my instruments in the beginning, as you can see from those first 3. So I did a lot of Appalachian instruments with carved heads for many years and through the 1970s until the solid body thing caught on.
That's awesome. To wrap this up, I know you have a lot of clients coming up. You said that you went to California a few years, came back.
Yeah.
I think you owned a store before this one, right?
Yeah, my first shop was on Downing Street around the corner. It was called Naked City Guitars because there was a TV show around that time, The Naked City. And there was 10 million stories in the Naked City, and this is one of them. And that was one of them. That was a great shop. David Bowie came into that shop, and John Belushi, and I met so many. I did all Lou's guitars in that shop, Lou Reed. I got to meet some, because of where you are. You move into New York City, into the neighborhood where they all live,
Right.
People still come in here.
So basically, you were working with locals pretty much, right?
Yeah, locals is what you got to rely on, And then when I went to California, it was good for a few years and realized, it's just not populated enough. I fixed everybody's guitar. I sold a guitar to everybody who's going to buy one. And you run out of humans who play guitar.
Yesterday, I forgot to ask you that. What was your what was the reason you went to California? What was your goal?
Oh, well, that was a pretty complicated story. I didn't really want to leave New York City at the time, but it was 1978 and 79. The city was really run down. Koch, the city was bankrupt. There was more crime. You'd never walk into Central Park in 1979. It was the year of the movie when my buddy Quine, Blank Generation was made over CBGB's was happening. But it was a gritty time here, and there was a lot of mafia action going on in this neighborhood, and I wound up getting wound up in it, and was kind of forced to leave. So I had to leave for a few years, and
How many years do you remember?
I stayed there for 5 years because I really liked it too. I loved it, California. It was such a beautiful place.
What city did you go in California?
I was in the Monterey Peninsula area in Carmel Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a shop just called Monterey Guitars.
Monterey out there.
Yeah, Kelly Guitar Manufacturing. I still kept my old name too, and was trying to make it there. I was, working in restaurants, doing dishes too, just to pay the rent.
Interesting. And everybody, sorry to interrupt you. There's people that everybody sees what's done, but they don't know how it was done.
Yeah.
When you're telling me this, I went 5 years to California, basically forced for the crime that was happening in New York City.
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting fact.
Yeah.
Affected not only you, everybody, but I think that pushed you.
Yeah, can you imagine New York City was bankrupt?
Right.
I couldn't even believe it. I said, what are you talking about? Everything's here. But it was the case. It was a gritty time here.
And you said in the 70s, right?
78, 79.
78. I was born in 78. Bro.
Yeah.
That's now. Last question, I promise. The wood.
Yeah.
You were saying that most of these buildings were like 200-year-old.
Yeah, well, this neighborhood, you go down to Wall Street and you're talking like some of the buildings, the Trinity Church, we got wood from there, 1790. It was rebuilt twice. It was like 1620 or something, the original one, A lot of the things burned down, so what's still surviving, you see the South Street Seaport, areas like that. But here, this is 1827, this building. Around the corner, you got Chumley's, 1822, I think, and one of the oldest speakeasies. J.D. Salinger, Steinbeck, and Hemingway used to hang out there, sign their names in the tables, and everybody knew about the place. It was a real famous speakeasy. But yeah, this neighborhood's got some really old buildings, and they're all framed out in this old wood, these old pine trees, from the log runs of the 1800s. The Dutch that were here said, sell us the wood. Screw King George. King George is a monster.
And it's white pine, right?
Yeah, these were giant white pine trees that were sometimes 7 feet diameter, 800 years old. The forest was an eastern seaboard forest that went from Maryland to Canada, as far west as the prairie states. It's just these amazing trees.
Wow. Rick, I appreciate your time.
All right.
I really appreciate, that you're sharing these stories. I know it's like decades of your work, decades of hard work and sacrifice. But I'm glad you're here for all.
Yeah, we're
us
waking at work. We're hanging out.
Lovers. And thank you very much for your
you're
time.
welcome. Anytime. Sure enough.
Appreciate it. Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, guys, we're here in the second part of this episode at Carmine Street Guitars here in New York City. Cindy, once again, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. You guys were so kind yesterday, and this is our last day in New York City, and you're putting the cherry on the top by allowing us to do this episode with you. So let's just start with a simple question, and it starts from the beginning. When this passion about building instruments came from? What was your background? When that spark of let's build a guitar came from?
Yeah, so basically I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
My father was a guitar player his whole life. That's really where it stems from. In general, I had a couple artists in my life, in my family and everything growing up. And long story short, getting through high school and everything, mainly doing the art classes and stuff, I was always drawing and working on some stuff at home. I picked up the guitar when I was 8.
So you play guitar?
I play guitar, yeah.
Okay.
I'm more of a woodchuck at this point. Building, I got a lot of stuff to do this way, but I recently started a project with my husband, Johnny, and we're called the Suspect Chart.
Okay.
So it's kind of more of like Sisters of Mercy vibe mixed with kind of a little bit more poppy sort of stuff. But he's got a southern rock goth band in Italy
Okay.
So we're kind of going in that direction. I just picked up playing again.
Are you
So
playing the guitar? Okay,
it's
that's
just
awesome.
us both on guitars with just like
Already.
backing tracks
Okay,
right
awesome.
now
Yeah,
because we don't have time for a band.
Adapting to the time. So back in track.
I always go off on things. So back to the question. I basically, out of high school, growing up in Jersey, my family being from New York, my grandfather was a stone setter who basically raised me. He built like 7 World Trade, a bunch of crazy
Awesome.
buildings. So
Okay.
I grew up with like craftsmen and stuff, or, you know, artistic creatives. For the most part. And when I graduated high school, I was working in galleries on the side and stuff.
Okay.
But not
So you
as
were
an artist.
already.
I was already trying to find my way
Right.
in New York. Coming here with no money. I'm not a money girl. I grew up in a trailer park in Jersey. Like, people look at my Instagram and they're like, oh, it's taken a lot of years to get to the point where I am now. And I still have so much learning, so much to figure out, you know?
Right.
But I knew I wanted to do this, especially being on like the interning paperwork side, booking artists, booking shows, things like that. I was like, this is not me. I'm too creative. I want to do
Right.
something.
Okay.
So out of high school,
You were
I
finished high school at what age? 17?
no, it was 2010 and I was 18. I
Okay.
think, well, no, maybe I was 17.
Okay.
I don't remember.
What?
My birthday is November 20th, if you can figure it out. But, yeah, I basically worked for 2 years, suit and tie, got rid of all my piercings, made a bunch of money, got my own apartment, and I got laid off from this place, and I was making enough money where it was like, okay, it's like 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. a lot of days, but I gotta do this. And at that point, when I got laid off, I said, okay, what am I gonna do? And I was like done with the art world. It's just like not my vibe or anything. And I didn't want to go to a luthier school out west. I had thought about that throughout high school and everything, and there weren't any in Jersey. I think there's one in Jersey now, where people can learn the whole craft and everything. I wanted to be in New York, and I had been following being into gear and stuff throughout high school. I was following Rick's work on the gear page, and you know, everybody was talking about his guitars, the Chelsea Hotel and everything.
There was no Instagram, no social media, so you had to go through.
Well, yeah, I was
out and catalogs, right?
yeah, all the forums and stuff for all the gearheads.
Right.
And I talked to my friend Jimmy Webb, who passed away, but he was kind of like the manager at Trash and Vaudeville for decades,
Okay.
which is like a very famous rock and roll store in the Lower East Side. And I sat down with him because he was a very good friend of mine, and it was like, okay, let's make a list of like the 10 guitar guys.
Guitar builders?
Yeah. Or just like stores, maybe like Rivington. Just the people that are around here. But I really wanted to build, and growing up, going to thrift stores, garage sales, all that stuff, I've always loved the stories and the history of things. And I'm like a stuffed person. I could be anything. If it catches my eye, I'm like, what is this? What's it about? I need it. But I love that he had that appreciation for New York history like I do, you know? And so I walked in one day. I got my white button up on. I had never been here, blue jeans, which I never wear, my black creepers, and it was like 105 degrees out that day. I just moved to Flatbush, so I didn't know the trains. And I got off at Broadway Lafayette instead of West 4th. And I walked down Houston in this heat and this sun. And I showed up here just like,
full of sweat, kind of like,
yeah, it's
Can I
like
have
put
some
my
water?
like resume in the folder, just like,
Right.
oh my God, please, just like let my bangs not curl.
Apparently.
But so I walk in, and I kind of like, I'm like looking around like, oh boy, like this place is like really, really cool. It's like beyond expectations for me. And Rick eventually says like, can I help you with something?
How were you? How old was he?
Well, this was 13 years ago, and I'm 33 now, so I was 20.
Okay.
And he must have been 13 years ago. He's 75 now, so 62, 60, whatever it is. So I told him my story. Yeah. I'll just back up as I can cut. So I basically walked in, told him my story, and he said, I can't pay you. Because he's never had anybody where he's like me. He never wanted a big company. He wants to do his thing.
Right.
And I told him my story, and I said, I have good unemployment for a year that will cover most of my rent, but I am going to need a side job. So as much as I can be here, I want to learn, and then eventually, hopefully, I can do this full time. So about 4 years, I had side jobs. And I was doing all this here and then doing work at home. Like I still do the wood burning, all the artwork. I'll bring bodies or necks or pick guards back home and everything.
So, but that was a wise business decision that you made by, he said no salary. And right.
He could tell that I was serious and that I didn't want to just build myself a guitar and leave. He could tell, and he could also tell, I didn't know that he had the art background that he did. Sorry. Let me fix this. I didn't know that he had the art background that he did back then. So when I was telling him all this stuff, this, that, and the other thing, he's going, okay, she's on my vibe. She gets it. Seems like she really wants to do it. And so he said, all right, sit at the computer, answer the phones, and I'll show you the back. And I've been here ever since. But when I sat down at that computer to answer the phone, I couldn't even remember the name of the shop. I was like, hello? Because it was just so overwhelming for me. But yeah,
Were you getting
13 years now. Huh?
Back in the day, a lot of calls.
It's always a lot of calls. I mean, you were even when you were out there, it's like ring, whatever it is. Yeah. Between setups, the custom builds, people wanting to come visit, especially after the documentary that they did. We've had a lot of people in for that, you know. The doc really I had about a 6-month waiting list.
And we're here, guys, so appreciate it. But I tell you, you know.
That was in the early days. I'm at like a year and a half, 2 years
right
now.
So look, but you know, I'm glad you're telling this story because that's what it takes to make it. You know, it takes that leap of faith, but you know, a decision. And I think like you're sharing, you didn't know about his background. You know, he makes great guitars and this and that, but he had his own story. And I think when you guys, he saw something in you, and I think the word to me is commitment. Yeah. Like, so this girl is, she wants to do it.
I'm there with it. Yeah.
What were you thinking? There were those 4 years. Were there times that like you were like, I think I should do something else, or you were like, gotta make it?
No, you know, the financial part again, getting into this, and even now, is a bit difficult when you don't have, for any business, when you don't start with a single dollar, right? So it's been kind of I've never second guessed stopping doing this. This is the only thing I ever want to do. If this shop has to move, like, I'll figure it out, but we're good. You know, it's not something that's like in my head. But, you know, financially, sometimes I'm kind of finding my way, and maybe this will help like other builders or whatever, anybody who's listening that's a business owner,
guitar builders,
who's creative and doesn't have that side of like the business mind. It takes years to kind of figure out your way of doing things and what makes sense to keep you going. And, you know, I've struggled with rent and things like that, just like everybody, but I think that I'm still pushing myself to be in a better place stability-wise, because as an artist, sometimes you'll get an order for something that you've never done, and I take on a lot of stuff. I like challenges. Sometimes I shouldn't say yes to, but I've never had any regrets in what I've taken on. But I have sort of quoted below what I should here and there, and I think every artist probably has done that at some point or another. So the only thing is keeping the support for the shop going, because, you know, Rick is 75, he's healthy. He's still riding his bike like 400 miles.
That's why he's lucky.
Every weekend. He's great. But, you know, I want to keep this place going, and not having that part, the financial part of the background is difficult for me. That's a scary part.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's all about your hours. It's about the commitment, and it's also about a lot of sacrifice, you know. I'm a painter on the side, but you know, I might have to be working on someone's cat portraits for 2 weeks, you know?
Sure.
Is it something that's coming from me that I could put in a gallery? No, I had to put that on the side, you know? I do things here and there, but this you really want to do something? And I always hear people say, like, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. It's like, no. And this is another important thing that I think, it's one of those things that everybody thinks about, but is so unsaid, that it's like, it's so important that you have to remember that no matter what the situation is or what conversation you're having with anybody, and it's not meant to be a negative thing, like everybody's alone in the world, but everybody is filtering things in response to everything that they've been through in life, whether it's traumas, you know, whether it's something good, whether it's something they've had for a goal in mind that they couldn't get to the point where they wanted to, where it was super successful. But everybody's always sort of has that thing. So if somebody's telling you, like, oh, you can't do that, or why would you do that? That doesn't make sense, or something.
There's always that voice. Even we have that voice that's telling us sometimes.
Yeah, and there's you gotta. So there's always that part in me, having the background and all the other things that I've been through, where I'm very hard on myself, but it's one of those things that, you know, like, keeps me going and makes me want to do better every build, you know?
Look, sorry to interrupt you. What you guys have built, because this is a combination of talents between what, you know, Rick built over the years, and then you came to the picture, and I think you brought this other element. I think you're being super authentic as far as, like, telling you, you know, this is reality. This is what you might get into if you want to get into art, any art. Could be building an instrument, sculptures, painting, music. And I really admire every artist that supports himself by doing art, because it's not an easy thing. Anywhere in the world. I'm from South America, I'm from Ecuador, and I have a lot of friends, musicians, that I have this other podcast I interview, and I really admire that they, for the ones that support their families making music. Now, tell me the story about the first guitar that he said, okay, you're gonna build this one.
Okay, so the first one, I still have it, actually. I should have brought them in. The first one, he didn't just, like, throw me on these tools or anything, because they're very dangerous. But the first one that we built was kind of like mostly him working on it, but, you know, I'd be doing the sanding. I could do the you know, he always talks about, you know, in Spain, when, you know, the generations, the kids growing up in the luthier shops, or they're making violins or guitars, the first thing you start doing is the kids start sweeping the floor. Okay, yeah, all you're gonna do is sweep, you know? Then you can, maybe you can touch this vice, or help me with this on the bench or something. And there's this thing that you gotta, like, take your time and earn your, you gotta watch a lot.
Yeah.
And learn by watching too, not just doing. I'm a very on-hands person with everything, but the first one was something that he kind of did most of, but was kind of like, okay, the next one's going to be mostly you. So it was a mini telly style Chelsea Hotel neck.
Okay.
And what we did was we did the top half of the body gunstock quilted maple. So it was the flamey maple.
Okay.
And the back was half swamp ash, old growth swamp ash that he had from back in the 70s when he was working on the farms in Maryland and building up his little thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was the first one, and at that point I was really into my Tarot of the Cat People tarot cards.
Okay.
So I had done some of the illustrations on the back of that, just trying to figure out how pen works on stuff, how markers work on things, how colored pencil works on things, because I'm kind of mixed media too. So that was kind of an experiment on that one. I still have it. It sounds great. And it was an experiment with airbrush too at that point, because I kind of wanted, you know, this flame that was more of like a dark black to gray burst, but with the flame in the middle. So I did that, and that was the original look of it. But then years later, I became obsessed with blackguard blondes at one point. And I came in and I sanded the whole front off blonde and just refinished it and put a blackguard on it. And it's still like that, and it's beautiful. But the back and the sides have the original finish, and so does
Is that the chart on your Instagram? That picture?
I could post it soon. I'll send it to you. I can send you whatever photos you want, so that you can see the visuals. Yeah.
My nugget out of this part of your sharing with us is that you basically, again, in whatever you do, get involved, get there. Like you said, you know, if you want to build guitars, you got to be at this store. Even sweeping the floor, getting your feet wet, because I think that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Right? My daughter, I'm going to share a personal thing. My daughter, she's 16, and she's like, I want to be on films. I want to be, you know, I want to make movies. I said, okay, so I need to find you. I had a friend that's what he does. You need to go there to clean the cameras at least. Because I believe in proximity. And you had the great fortune, you guys had the great fortune.
I got very lucky
to be at a proximity with this guy. It's not only Rick, it's also this place.
Yeah.
Because this place, when we came here, like, I was like, I think I got the wrong address, because I don't see the store being in this area, because it's so
gentrified. We're like the last left on the block.
Exactly. And the minute you walked in, it's like you're back in the 50s, 60s, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And this,
walk back in time.
This is VIP, guys. I feel fortunate being here. Honestly, I've been following what you guys been doing on your page, you know, Rick's page, the Carmine page, but that is...
Even that, I very much appreciate.
But that's what shows on the surface, but there is a story behind that. You're talking about struggles, rent, sweating coming from the, you know, coming...
Well, yeah, I mean, Rick also lives like 2 blocks away, whereas I live about, on a bad day, an hour. On the weekends with the trains, it's taken me 2 hours to get home.
You still live in New Jersey? Or?
No, I live in Flatbush in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is crazy. On the bike, like, sometimes I'll take the bike in and it's like 45 minutes, but still, it's like, I wish I lived a little closer in that sense, but that's where I ended up, and I gotta, you know.
Let's talk about a little bit of pyrography, because that's what you do. I think that's one of your niches that people just, want to do guitar.
I've been seeing a lot more on Instagram too, and I know that people have done it, of course, in the past throughout the decades. But yeah, I couldn't find anybody on Instagram when I finally got back on there that was doing it, and it's crazy how it's taken off. So my father, again, he gave me my father's name was Mark.
Mark.
Yeah, M-A-R-K. He passed away in 2017.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, thank you. He gave me his wood burning kit that he had for like decades when I was about 8. So it had all the cork pieces in it and the little goblets and stuff, and I started screwing around with that. But those old kits are like the iron barely gets enough high, even for like a soldering iron. It's like half the heat.
Right.
So I was kind of screwing with that, and I got because I always loved fire.
Right.
I'm not a pyromaniac, but
if I... burning smell, maybe it was like,
if I'm not careful.
Right.
No, but I got really into it for years, and then when I was about 17 or 18 and I really started thinking about stuff, I was kind of like learning how to bias amps at home. I was kind of trying to build a pedal here and there, not really working so much on guitars because I didn't know that part, but I was trying to figure out more about like audio and how to...
How old were you?
I was probably about 17 or 18.
I always track the age because I want to see like, you know,
how things
when.
develop.
Yeah,
and click.
so you were young, still in high
I
school,
was,
17,
yeah,
18.
well, yeah. Again, growing up with, you know, music, I would watch my father play for hours. I mean, I didn't live with him growing up, so my visits with him were like music oriented always, you know, which was great for me.
Was just your dad and your mom, or just your dad was the one with?
My mother's not the greatest
Okay.
part of the family.
So it's your dad.
She can have an antique store and do great. She's good at finding things in the thrift stores and garage sales. That's where I got that part from her. But what was it?
You were building pedals.
Right.
Messing around
So,
with that.
yeah.
That's kid.
Yeah, so I was doing all that at home. Yeah, but what was the question?
My question was, how did you start with pyrography?
Oh, how did I start with pyrography? That's right. Okay, so
Don't worry, we'll learn it.
I know. That's why I'm trying to restart the
Right.
question. I've learned that throughout the years with all the things. So I eventually got into pyrography properly because I was kind of working at home on music things here and there, the pedals, biasing amps, learning audio stuff. And I kind of thought about it at one point, like, I used to go to Michael's a lot for craft stuff, and I found this little coffin, this little wooden box coffin for like $1.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I could put picks in here or something.
Right.
So I painted it and everything. I was like, what if I could burn like, you know, like a skeleton or something on it? So I picked,
wood.
it was wood, yeah. And so I had a soldering iron at home at that point. That was pretty hot, you know, and I kept ruining all the tips on this one little box because it's not meant for that, you know.
Right.
But that was kind of the first thing that got me back into it. And then I kind of was like, okay, when I can afford like a proper wood burner, I can get into that, but I can't do it now and the soldering iron's not working. So a couple years later when I started here, I had seen that Rick had done some wood burning online, just like, you know, ropes and buffaloes, like kind of Western themed things. And I told him, I said, you know, I've been trying to do pyrography, and Rick was like, let's get like a professional machine. And so I started wood burning a lot here, just on the side, putting things on.
With this other machine, with this more.
Yeah, it's
advanced.
basically, I had a different one at the time, but it's basically this one, and I can show you how hot it gets too.
Let's take a look at that. And I appreciate that you sharing that with us.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, look at this. This is all wood burn. This is all, and I kind of almost like these parts aren't even carved. You know, everybody's got their own touch, just like drawing. And people always ask me, like, what tips do you use? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I've always had a heavy hand with drawing. I've always had a heavy foot with driving.
This is
And I only use one tip for this. I've got a drawer full of tips, and I always end up, just with how I work, with the same pointed tip. So if I put this on...
This is the professional one.
This is a
That one
professional
is
brand.
Cindy.
Yeah, I decorated them.
Oh, okay. That is like
Even
a
that I
signature.
can't help. I gotta decorate everything.
That's cool.
So this is just a heat control here.
Right.
And this one actually has 2 places. So if you are using 2 separate tips, you can just plug this in instead of having to change the tip every time. But I don't use that at this point. But like, yeah, this is like the hottest setting. You see how cherry red the tip
Red.
gets?
Look at that.
Yeah. And I can actually, zoom in and I'll like put it down and up. Get a picture of the, over here. Put it up.
Now she's gonna heat it up.
Yeah, there you go. You can see how hot
Oh yeah,
it gets.
look at that.
Yeah.
Look how red that thing is.
So, I mean, if you want to burn something, anything.
Look at that.
Yeah, and you can get real deep too. Like,
Have you got burned?
Oh, so many times. I mean, and I bruise easily.
All right. Okay. So you have your
I've had my share.
Okay.
It's okay though, but yeah, I mean, like for shading and stuff. On this one, I put it a little lower, you know, and you just kind of.
So the temperature varies depending what you're doing. Shading is less heat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and again, it's all about kind of like your touch. So sometimes I do a lot of like cross hatching too. It's really all the traditional sort of techniques that I've learned in.
What techniques did you learn over the years, like by doing it, or you kind of like?
And then sometimes again, heavy hand, I do this all the time.
Oh, okay. So you have to just
I know, I've gotten good at fixing these to at least being good enough for rock and roll, if you want to say it that way. So
my question was like, over the years, you learn all these techniques by doing it, right?
Trial and error. Because I have a background in life drawing and anatomy as well, so I do super realistic.
Okay.
Like charcoal, all black and white.
We're gonna need some pictures of that. You can share with me.
I can send all of that stuff, and I'm also into analog photography, double exposure, all black and white. But it took years for me to figure out. I could do like my simple illustration stuff very easy off the bat. But when it came to portraits, it took me years to really be able to get it down. And even sometimes, depending on the piece of wood, especially, it's way harder to do. Like the portraits over there that I'm working on, those are a lot easier to work with because that's like maple and it's a lot harder. But with the pine, the grain on the pine is like hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft. So with portraiture on this, you got to have a lot of control and really have more experience. You just got to put the hours in. I say that about everything. I really believe
this
that.
Is a very interesting project. It has a lot of elements. How long is it taking you to finish this?
I have been working on this one since January. It's probably the most complicated one that I've done, and this is like brass reinforcement. It's got brass on the back. Going up here, I inlaid. And it's gonna actually have, this is all hand cut brass as well. It has a hand-cut flame for up here in brass, and it's got a Cindy logo that's going to be shiny brass as well. But this is for a woman in Canada who came in one day and loved the shop and loved my work and loves the cramps. So she came to me and said, Cindy, I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I want to learn guitar, and I just love your artwork. Can you make me a Dungeons and Dragons guitar? And I said, I can. I don't know how, but I can, I guess, yeah. So with this one, I started with kind of the outline of the logo, and I didn't want to make it exactly because obviously I don't want any lawsuits or anything. I really tried to make my own just like ode to it.
Okay.
You know? So we decided, since she's a big Cramps fan, to put custom, this is going to be all gold hardware too. Gold. I'll show you them. They're so good. Yeah. Yeah, these things are just beautiful. And, oops. Oh, I'm going to need that at some point. I work with custom pickup guys too, for the most part. Yeah, they're beautiful. This is by Smitty.
Love that this says Cindy on the pickup.
Yeah, Smitty and Sue with MJS Pickups up in Canada, and they're like family to me. I've been working with them for almost a decade now, and he hand winds all the pickups custom. So I'll just like put whoever I'm building a guitar for basically directly in touch with him.
Right.
And all he needs to do is know the hardware
Look at that.
color and
that's awesome.
You know what sound you're looking for. So he's done all different types of custom stuff for me. And so since Ivy was into a lot of the Gretsch thing, I said let's put some filter drones in there. I don't think you're allowed to call these Filtertrons because TV Jones probably has a patent on that. But whatever, I don't remember what he calls these. Wait, let me say the right word here. Oh no, he says Filtertron style, so that's fine. And then the bridge for this also. Take a look at that. This is the bridge for it as well.
I was about to ask about the bridge. So here, it goes here. Got it. Okay.
Wrap around bridge, man. Let me get I gotta show you this part now. Cool. My husband hand cuts a lot of the metal. I'm sorry, sweetie. My husband hand cuts a lot of the metal. I don't know where he put anything.
That was my. I wanted to ask that question as far as the hardware, the bridges, the tuners. So some of them are like custom made, or do you use a vendor like? Because this is a nice bridge.
This is Tone Pro. We don't make the hardware here, but we use guys like Smitty, for example.
Right.
He's been hand making custom pickups for over 30 years in Mississauga and Toronto, and it's him and his wife on his property. But yeah, he's just been doing it forever, and he used to build guitars. So we try and stick with like pickup makers that are like local, and other ones Gemini pickups here in New York. My friend Mark, who's kind of on a break, is Dark Moon pickups here. I've used all different stuff, and if somebody wants something specific,
those companies, that exist.
Yeah, Lindy Fraylin's a big one. Don Mayer, those guys are like family to us. We've been using them a long time. There's a whole bunch of guys.
I put their logos on that so people know that. Oh,
look for this one, this is gonna actually light up red. I'm putting a switch so that you can click the switch here and it lights up red. But yeah, these are gonna be the 20, I think she said, and 12. I need to learn. For somebody who never played this game, I was hoping I could do this right also.
Right. But this is a challenge. But you know what? So many elements, so much attention to detail. I love this, that there's
this is
and where did you get these from?
I ordered them online from a Dungeons and Dragons specialist. So yeah, these are the hand cut gold for the headstock.
Look at that.
And I'm gonna kind of inlay this so it's not so awkward there. But
when this guitar is gonna be ready for this lady?
Probably. I'm shooting for next week because all I have to do really this weekend is finish all the shading and painting on these parts, and then get some finish on it, and I gotta drill.
Oh, okay. So
I don't know how I'm gonna drill these to put on the pots, but that's another step.
So this one is almost there.
This one's almost there, yeah. And the other one I finished yesterday is this one actually, and this is a baritone. This is 27 scale. This is old growth olive wood from the guy that's getting this. His name is Jasmine, and his uncle Bill is a woodworker. And so he's got all this old growth wood that he started getting in the 70s.
Oh, he brought it.
His uncle brought the body wood. So this is old growth olive wood from Greece. And the neck is the old pine. And he wanted a bigger...
Can I
yeah, sure.
Just to get the weight?
And this is all like... This one's very heavy because of the olive wood.
It looks
But
heavy.
Usually like the pine is very, very light.
But
But that's more of like a nostalgic thing.
Exactly. It comes with
so it doesn't matter.
With the territory of having a wood. There's the Cindy logo there.
Yeah, and then, I have even, like, nice little things. Like, this was, I can't remember his name now, the guy that made this, but he's out in the U.S. somewhere. But even the switch tips handmade in the U.S. is nice, awesome. Right? So we try and stick to the most we can with people who are here or around that are, specialists in metalworking that we're not doing. But again, we do like a lot of this kind of stuff where we can cut brass, aluminum,
so
pick
you
guards.
got the inlays. You guys did the inlays. Right?
Oh yeah, these are all hand cut with this little jeweler saw right here. So you take the metal, you draw it out, and you just go, and then you gotta hand shape it and everything. And with these ones, I inlaid them so they would have been all brass. And then I engraved them by hand, kind of like old scrimshaw, with the whale. The whales on the, old, where they draw the ships on the, you know what I mean, the scrimshaw, So it's the same idea. And these things were inspired by one of the weapons in Dungeons and Dragons. I took one of their chains apart, so that's where those come from.
Everyone that did the Dungeons and Dragons fan, they're gonna like flip out.
I'm gonna be making Dungeons and Dragons guitars for the rest
because
of my life.
you know, for all the collectors out there, it has a special meaning, and you know, every detail makes the instrument unique. And
I've never made one the same. I've never replicated any
this
artwork.
Is like one of a kind.
If somebody's like, "Can I have one of those?" I'm like, "I could do your version."
Exactly.
I could do the version that you're gonna like even more because it's for you.
No, Cindy. You know, I know this seems a lot of work in this, but the design. How long does it take you to come up with the idea and put everything that is together? Like that process of designing. To me, it's like it seems like the hardest part is to come up with the design, or not?
Well, yeah. For this stuff, I mean, there's a lot of sketching. You know, like I think I might have the original sketch of what I sent her. And sometimes they come out exactly, but I always tell people, I'm like, this is like an approximate, once I start making all the templates, like, oh, my templates are not there anymore. Where did the templates go? Where did Rick move them? There's hundreds under here.
Okay, let's take a look.
If you can get the shot of all these laying down,
look
there's
at that.
like four.
Okay.
So for each guitar, you got to make a set of templates. And this is exactly the stuff that Leo Fender used to make his templates out of in the 50s. So he would use tempered masonite. So you hand draw the whole thing out. You got to have neck templates, body templates.
But those are with wood, right? Wood templates.
Those are
templates.
Those are tempered masonite.
Right. Okay. So
yes.
like thinner, and you know.
Yeah.
But you know what?
So I can show you how we use these, but I really want to know where Rick put my templates first.
But you know what? It's great that you're sharing, like you mentioned, Leo Fender, the way he was making the guitars back in the day. Yeah. And also, Rick mentioned the same, like, you know, he still makes the guitars the way Leo Fender was making it, right?
Right. Yeah, and Rick's a big Leo fan. You know, the one thing is you can't do like an illegal headstock, so we don't do that stuff. Like we always do our own versions of headstocks.
Right.
And if it's a body shape like a Les Paul,
right,
that's patented too. So you got to change the horn or change something.
I was about to ask,
so that you can't make it into a Les Paul. You got to have something missing
that makes
somewhere.
A difference. Like no,
that makes a difference.
Okay.
So anytime anybody asks me that, I'm like, I don't do illegal stuff. We can sketch back
basically,
and forth till you're happy, but
I don't make replicas, right?
I'm not getting sued over something that's supposed to be special and not that.
You guys never had that situation? Never? Like they said, oh, you made a copy or something?
You gotta ask that question to Rick, because I don't know what he once said and what he doesn't. I'll leave it at that. But I can show you how we kind of do this. So this shape, for example, is one of Rick's that he decided to make, where he had the 3-way volume tone.
All right, so this is a template, guys. For
this
the one
not
for
the outline.
That's what a template looks like.
This is and so for this one, for example, you'll need to make a second template so that you can route the neck pocket.
Okay.
So multiple things depending on how intricate the guitar gets. You could need multiple templates.
I was about to say, so the more add-ons, the more templates you need, right?
Yeah, depending. If you want it rerouted, that's a template that's got to go on the top. If you want it standard routed, this has to go on the bottom, because these things basically follow this pin. So if this piece of wood is connected to this template and it's just a little bigger than this outline, right? You're picturing the body shape, just like, like a 1/4 inch around here. And this is attached through these 2 screws from the back, right? So pretend this is the body over here, right? So if you're pushing this template up against here, this router bit's going to come down 1/8 of an inch each step and route the whole outline as well as in the cavities, and you go step by step with this wheel over here.
Okay.
So you usually start at about 6, and then you can adjust how high or low you need the table based on what you're routing and how thick it is. So you gotta set it up like that once it's running, and then you go for it.
Do you remember the year that you learned all this?
This was
Everything
about
that you're
8
describing right now?
months into it. I hopped on the pin router.
Okay.
Yeah, and so even with that, for me, you know, I don't take this machine for granted. So if I can do a body or a neck outline by hand, and I can cut it real close and just do it all just hand shaping and stuff, I do that. Like for the most part now, I'm doing a lot more hand work than routing. I do it all for the pickups and all the internals and neck pockets, things like that I need. But yeah, like for the dragon, that's mostly actually hand carved, and I did make an outline template for that and did the pickups and all. But otherwise, all of that is just hand shaped because I didn't even. Yeah.
Man, we really appreciate that you're sharing the technicalities of putting that piece of art together, like, you know, explaining what the template is for the ones that were not familiar, because
some people think I'm doing this just freehand, and sometimes we are for like little things to fix, but no.
Right.
We're not freehanding this. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about a little bit of your station, because this is your workstation.
Yeah.
Rick shared that this was a patio or a yard. What was it?
Backyard.
Backyard.
So basically, under this floor here that you're seeing, there's a slab of concrete because this was the backyard. This is the backyard. Like if you look out the window, they got another building there, but you know, that's a balcony, and back here they have a backyard in the restaurant here, so you can always smell the food coming in. But this is enclosed back here because this was a speakeasy in the 1900s. So the back of the actual house is that brick wall with the window and the door. Those two weren't there originally. They cut those out, and the bathroom was added when Rick started working here.
Which was what year?
Was 1990.
Take a look. Take a shot of that door that you were.
Oh yeah, and I can open it because the whole idea with this back then was that you needed the password to get in. That's how speakeasies work.
Right.
That I would stay.
Oh, so let's play the speakeasy. Do I need to give you a code?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, tell me when you're ready.
We're ready.
We're ready. All right.
Password.
Oh, 593.
593. Is that what it is?
Yeah. That's the Ecuador country code.
Oh, okay. Today, I guess that's what the password is.
Yeah. So this door is like super extra old, right?
Oh yeah, this was in the basement since
you
they
imagine?
took it out of the house way back. Yeah.
And look, this is like your guitars, right? I saw all the guitars outside, and you know, it's a unique instrument, one of a kind. It's like and directed, like for the lady that got the Dungeons and Dragons guitar. How long does it take to get a guitar made by you? You already shared that, but just to the people that is like, I'm interested, I want to get a guitar down over there. What is like the time frame?
So my process basically is that I work on about 3 to 5 at a time. My wait list right now is about 1.5 years, but I'm always bouncing back and forth with people. So I usually take like a half deposit of whatever the quote is. My tellies start at about 4,200. And depending, again, I've never made one the same. So really, I usually work with people sending me specs of what they're thinking. I can give them a better quote, a better time frame, because depending on what's coming up too, some things might be shorter timing than the other. If I have to make a basic like Model T, I can do that in about a week. But most of mine are more intricate, like the dragon, or they want some kind of wood burning that's personal, or something hand cut for the inlay that's personal. So it just kind of depends, but I kind of work with people, giving them the quote, and then when the time comes to start on the guitar, it's kind of cool because you get the entire process, you know.
Right.
I'm sending you, I mean, I drive people crazy sometimes. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's like once the build starts,
right,
it's not like working with a big factory. You're working one-on-one.
One-on-one.
You know, it's a much more personal thing.
And makes the instrument more special because you build a relationship with the builder. It creates a relationship, a friendship from that.
And you never know what you're going to learn about what people are going through again. You know, all these things. I mean, I've had people dealing with the most horrible stuff, and the only thing they're looking forward to is this guitar that I'm making, and it's like
it's
so cool to be part of that kind of thing as well.
I'm glad that you're being the guitar builder that you are. You're sharing this side of the effect of building the instrument for this other person. I own over 60 guitars, and I have over.
You beat me, and I'm a builder.
Right, and I have a few instruments, you know, made. I have this luthier in Spain. Now you're sharing this story. It's like, that's how it is. Exactly. Pictures, calls, videos, cried on the phone, getting emotional.
See, I have like a whole album of this thing that makes you create. The whole thing with Rick and I from the very beginning, and I get a lot of shit for this online, for like, oh, it's just an art piece, oh, it doesn't play. It's like, of course it does. The first thing that we want are these to be workhorses of guitar. That's why we use great wood, the old growth wood, the custom everything. I mean, for the people that can appreciate artwork or something a little extra or something.
Right.
That option's there. I've worked with feathers for people.
I
It's
read
like,
that.
okay.
Right. You want that?
If that's something for you, then let's do it.
Right. But you know what? But I think it's what it means. You put it clear and loud. They are playable. You can play it. You can do this. But also it's like what it means. Like that instrument. I can imagine the meaning that an instrument is for this lady.
Yeah.
And
she's learning.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things
even
like,
greater, you know, it's like
yeah.
that is what we talk about. That's commitment. That's like all in. I'm gonna learn how to play the guitar and I'm gonna get this guitar done.
And it's all about the community with us too.
Once you finish the instrument, how do you feel? What's the feeling
what?
When you're done with the instrument? Are you sad that it's done, or you're like relieved? What's the?
I went through a lot of that with the first ones, because the first ones that I started building myself when I was ready to just
Be on your own?
Have the full Cindy Guitars thing going. One of mine was my signature moto model, which is all matte black, hot rod, based off of motorcycle leather jackets, the old motorcycles. My logo, I actually bought it legally, but it's actually the Indian logo font, the Indian Motorcycles logo font.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the other two parts aren't, but I created this thing because I always loved that look, the old hot rod cars and everything. And so when I had the prototype of that one, and again, this is when I first started, so I didn't have my rent yet or whatever, due in a week or whatever.
Right.
And so this guy came in from Japan, and he used to buy like one guitar from Rick like every year, and every couple of years he would visit. He'd go, oh, okay, I want this one. And he came in and he wanted that one. And I was looking at Rick, and Rick said to me, he said,
You know how to sell it?
He said, Cindy, do you want to do this for a living? He was like, this is why you're doing this. Sell that thing. Make another one. I was like, okay, I know it's the prototype, but I have the first two. I have the first one I made myself, which is actually out there. It's a little bit of a mess of knobs missing right now and stuff, but it is out there. The first full one I built myself.
Let's get that.
And the mini telly, the mini telly's at home. So knowing that I had those two, and I also have one of Rick's dulcimers from the 70s that I was looking for online for $1,000 or $2,000, and I was like, okay, I want this one. And the mini telly's at home. So knowing that I had those two, and I also have one of Rick's dulcimers from the 70s that I was looking for online for $1,000 or $2,000, and I was like, okay, I want this one. years and I finally found one. So having those things and having the one that Rick made me, he would burn the whole back for me. It was like, okay, I can let these go and make another one better for me. Just say, you know, like my personal version or whatever if I want to. But yeah,
I'm glad you're sharing
I'm just
this
happy.
story.
I'm happy. I'm happiest when I get feedback from them after, because I ship so many out, you know. So I'm so happy. Even if somebody's like, my E string's buzzing from the summer, can you help me? It's like, bring her in. I want to see her again.
Right,
You know,
right.
I don't get to see too many like out in the wild.
Right.
Hearing it like live or anything, because they're all over the place and videos don't, you know. So my favorite thing is getting it done. I just want the person to be happy. I want to have that feeling that like, okay, I did what I was supposed to do with it. You know, I feel good about it. I want them to feel good about it, and that's it. And if I can hear it live and they're sending me videos and pictures here and there, even if it's 8 months after,
They're
it's
they're like your baby.
yeah.
Right.
I love seeing them later on, and a lot of the time I look back and go, when the hell did I make that, or like this or that? And it's like, even that, I think it's that thing in my head where I constantly am like, I gotta do better, I gotta make another one, I have all these orders, and it's like,
Do you have a track record how many guitars you made on this 13?
I'm at about with all the custom pick guards and a very crazy life on this side to deal with. I think I'm at about like 130 or something.
Awesome, congrats.
Thank
You
you.
passed the 100.
Yes, I did. I passed
You did
100 last October.
Congratulations on that. Now, last question about that you're sharing that Rick told you this is it, you wanted to make this for a living. When does the Cindy Guitars logo on a guitar came?
From the
to
very
fruition?
beginning.
So you from the beginning was, I want to make my guitars, because that,
Well, that's what he set up, which he was smart about. And I felt a little like, in a way, because, you know, when I started, it was like, I kind of felt like, okay, he's probably going to want me to like help him out to learn. But it's like, no. I've been doing this 50 years. You're not touching my guitars. People want a Kelly. They're getting a Kelly.
right.
Because if you want to do this, you need a name. You need a
Okay.
brand name. You got to figure all
So
this
it came
shit out.
from him.
It came from him.
Oh,
He
okay.
built my brand up, working side by side, and let me come up with whatever I wanted, and has just helped me along the way. And we always learn from each other, you know?
You know what?
It's one of those things that we have a very mutual understanding. Even if one of us is having a really bad day or something, it's like everything comes back down to what needs to be done for the guitars that people are ordering, because that's the most important thing in this shop. And dealing with the people that come in, you know, that
Right.
like you guys that want to come, and
Right.
it's all part of the community to keep this going. We love what we do. We
Look.
want everybody to be happy.
And look, and thank you for giving us the extra time. It was supposed to be a 10-minute video. That's what I told her yesterday.
I'm a yapper. I'm sorry.
No. Actually, I like time. I like, the story. Now that you're sharing that he told you that basically, no, you don't touch my name. You're going to have your own. Actually worked out pretty good for you, because
Yeah.
it could be the opposite, saying, nope, it's going to be under my name. And the
Yeah.
time that you want to create your own name might create some disruption, like, no, that wasn't the deal, and that.
Yeah,
But I think,
100%.
look, I just met you guys yesterday and today, but I seen, he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
He's my angel.
And look, I think it was meant to be, you guys to meet each other, because I think this this connection, this it makes what this shop is all about. And it seems you're very, very, very committed to the product, committed to delivery, that to your clients, to guitar lovers. And definitely, I had to get one of those guitars on my collection. I'm like now it's like I gotta have it. I'm always about throughout the years I met a lot of guitar builders, made relationships with CEOs of companies, but this is like the real
I know.
deal.
Again,
And
I didn't want to be anywhere else.
look, we're about to leave to Los Angeles, but to me it's like I said, thank you, universe, for giving me the courage of going to the store yesterday. It was like I hope they allow me to, and appreciate it.
Sorry, I was so busy when you guys.
Well, no, but look, you know what? It talks a lot about like the person that you are. And look, not because I'm here with Cindy or had the opportunity to chat with Rick. Great people. I mean, you can feel it. Vibes don't lie. We're here at the shop, and to me, it's a privilege for a guitar lover that I am, guitar collector. I play guitar too, but I'm passionate about the stories behind the instrument, the stories behind the person that you became. Last question.
Sure.
You already share your age, but what would you tell the Cindy, the sweaty Cindy that came to the store that summer day? What would you tell her, knowing what you know now? What piece of advice would you give to that Cindy?
Piece of advice?
Knowing what you know, I mean, would you change anything? Would you tell her this? Or everything is just went the way it was supposed to go?
I would tell her, and again, I don't do this for money, but it's annoying again when you kind of don't know what's going on and you're creative. I would tell myself to learn more about the business side of stuff. I would tell
The financial part?
the financial part, just being a business owner. I went into this not even thinking I was going to be a business owner, and here I am 13 years later, like, maybe I should do this different. Maybe this needs to be different. Maybe I got to write this up. And that's cool, everybody learns differently and stuff, but I would definitely tell myself to study that more, because that's what I'm in the middle of now, and I wish I had done it back then, I would tell myself to be a little less hard on myself, because, again, everything's a process. Some things take a lot of time, and time is not something that you can really replace. I mean,
Right.
and try to focus the most on what is really important, There's so many things throughout the day, especially with me, because the other part of being my own, basically one-woman business owner, when it comes down to it, is I gotta deal with my social media, I gotta deal with my emails, I gotta deal with this, I gotta deal with that. And everybody's solution to that is always, why don't you get an assistant? Why don't you get an intern? It's like, I'm not a big company. Everything I do is pretty personal with the people that I'm dealing with. So if I got an assistant and I'm back here working on something, I'm gonna have somebody coming up to me going, Cindy, what should I say about this? What should I say? How should I answer this? I'm like, I don't need this. I just need time.
Right.
So the one thing that I say just in general, real quick, this is a little off topic, but is like, with the emails, don't DM me about orders. I can't do it. It is way too much. I just can't keep up. There's too many people replying. I don't want to put my messages off and be mean to everybody. Right. But if you don't get an email within like a week in response, just if you're really interested, call the shop. Talk to me directly. I'm easy.
She answers the
shop
phone.
number.
She was answering the phone.
Call,
it's like,
please.
It's years that I've heard a phone ring in a store, because we're so
I
used
call
to
my
email.
customers in the middle of the day to ask them the question. They're like, can't you text me? I'm at work. I'm like, I hate texting, especially.
I know this.
Like, just call me. Just
Right.
call me. It's so much easier.
And you know what? It was kind of like, now that you mentioned this, I was about to call. And I said, nobody answers when you call in store. I was like, because I wanted to ask, but I'm glad I didn't. Because the broker said, no, we're too busy. I don't know if you want to go away.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah, no, but inquiries, I mean, just for
Oh,
inquiries.
of course, yeah.
Like, it's not, like, I usually, some people ask me, like, oh, are you going to be here this day? I give them the hours and everything. I will be here. But, yeah, for inquiries, for the pick guards and stuff like that, email through my website's fine, but I take some time on that because I'm dealing with a lot at once usually. I don't sit on the computer for an hour every morning and I can't.
right.
I don't have the hours for that. So I'll check it every few days or so. But if it's something like that, just
Let me add this just to answer this. She already answered a tip for any person that wanna get into the guitar building business. You said 3 things. 1, learn the business side.
if you really want
Okay.
your own brand, you need that
You
part of it.
learn
Yeah.
the business side. The second thing you said, don't be so hard on yourself
Through the process,
through
yeah.
the process. And third, you said you gotta leave. Or it was something about like he said something
I
similar.
don't even remember.
No, I don't remember it either. But look, it was more like you know, like you gotta do what you like also.
You gotta do what you like, and you also like the other thing is if you're getting into something custom like me, you gotta make sure that the customer knows they're not dealing with a company, you know, like a line
Right.
where they're I can't think.
This is 101.
Yeah, it's not a factory where there's, you know, someone working on
Right.
next, someone doing this, someone doing that. If I'm out 3 days because I'm sick, that pushes me back a lot of
3
hours.
days.
I gotta do,
More days.
and it's everything else too. You gotta, my clients, and most of them know, but some of them
Right.
don't quite understand
Be
when
patient
they,
of the
even when
process.
they order something on Shopify. I put on Shopify 2 to 3 weeks because some weeks are so busy I can't sit and pack everything up. It doesn't make sense. It's like I'll do that when I have like 30 orders and everything will get out, but you guys got to realize I'm packing up everything, walking over, I'm answering emails, I'm answering DMs, I'm
Right.
making my own videos, posting.
Yeah, and
I'm doing my own taxes, I'm building, I'm drawing. So again, it takes time, but you gotta sacrifice certain
Look,
things
now
though.
that
It's
you
the other
mention-
part. There's so much to it.
now that you're sharing this, you know, you're doing an excellent job at your social media because now that you're sharing this, like I thought like someone else was managing the social media because you're saying
It's all
we're
me.
doing everything, doing an excellent job. Now, something I forgot to ask, I asked Rick yesterday, he answered, but the wood. The wood that you guys are getting, he was sharing something that you guys continue to keep, like basically hunting wood, right? So what is the process to hunt that wood?
It could be anything from somebody, like, for example, for the John Lennon and Yoko Ono wood that we got recently.
Really? Oh,
Their first place was on 105 Bank Street, and it's about a 15-minute walk from here in the West Village.
okay.
And they're one of Rick's clients who has a Kelly. He called the shop and he said, "Sit down." I was like, "What?" He was like, "You guys gotta get over here right now. 105 Bank Street. They're putting the wood in the dumpster. The whole place is like totally open. They took all the floors out, all this stuff." We run up there with the dollies and we got a few pieces and the guys were cool and took pictures with us and everything. So it could be something like that. Or it could be me walking to the deli and they were renovating the building on the corner and I'm watching them.
Right.
And the guys are looking at me like, "Oh, what the fuck is this doing?"
She's seeing
And I'm like looking in their dumpster. I'm like, where is this? I'm like looking at the pieces and stuff. And when
You're homeless or something like
people are like, "What
Right.
the fuck is she doing?" Because I don't look like somebody who's supposed to be in a dumpster.
Right,
I mean,
right.
and I could be. I've been in dresses, stuff in the dumpsters over here.
Getting the
But yeah, but you know, I'll be in there looking at the grains. You know, okay, this is a good neck board. This one's got too many knots
awesome.
in this place or whatever. And you know, I'll walk some back. But some of the boards that we got, those are a few of them. You see the really tall, skinny ones right to the
there?
bottom left
Yeah.
of the 37. right behind the leather.
yeah.
Those skinny
Okay.
ones. Those are a few that I just had on my shoulder walking down Carmine Street.
Oh, really?
So people.
Some people were looking at you like,
Yeah,
what's going
but
on?
they don't realize that. People don't realize
But you
how
see,
special this stuff
exactly.
is.
You see this
And you gotta
story
be there when it's
about the
happening.
wood. Exactly. You guys are
They
hustlers.
get rid of it fast.
Because you were showing us the templates, and I showed it was John Lennon. So I was about to ask you, why is that John Lennon? So
That's when it's
so it's because you
from
guys
there.
got it from the building. And actually,
Yeah.
I was telling my daughter about the, you know,
I have pictures of that,
Yeah,
too.
I was
can
telling my
send
daughter
you.
about the story about the Cota building, how he was killed in this, because you know she wasn't aware of that. And now you're talking about this place that they live, right?
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Cindy, I appreciate your time. You've been very, very generous with your time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
so much.
And look, you guys that are watching this video, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and definitely.
Do that. I'm gonna start a YouTube video channel.
Yeah,
thing
you
soon,
should.
too.
You should.
People have been
Because-
begging me for years.
Right.
Watch out for it.
Yeah,
because
and look,
I'm coming.
She's coming, so we better put this one out first. You know, so but look, great experience for me, a personal experience. This was a life experience being at this shop, being, you know, talking to you, talking to Rick, being with my daughter, first time in New York, and this wraps up our New York City trip. Thank you very much, Cindy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.